Hello and welcome to Bright Stories, a resting place for your thoughts and a gentle home for your dreams. I'm so glad you are here tonight. You might be lying in bed with a soft blanket over your legs, or maybe you are simply sitting quietly searching for something tender to carry you into sleep. Wherever you are, however your day has been, I want you to know that this moment is just for you. This is the space where the world slows down, where stories aren't rushed, and nothing is expected of you. Here we remember how it felt to be nestled in a warm bed, hearing stories whispered by a loving voice. A parent, a grandparent, or perhaps just a memory, a feeling of being safe and small and held by wonder. If you close your eyes, maybe you can feel the weight of the covers, the smell of the night air, or the sound of the clock ticking gently nearby. We are going to return to that place tonight, not just through story, but through feeling. This isn't a retelling of Alice in Wonderland like you have heard before. It is not fast-paced or full of chaos and color. Tonight, Alice's story is soft, dreamlike, woven with quiet magic, and filled with warm, sleepy comfort. So, let your breathing slow. Feel your body grow a little lighter. Let go of the day and come with me on a dream-like journey into Wonderland. It was one of those warm, drowsy afternoons in the heart of spring, the kind where time seems to slow and thoughts meander gently, like drifting leaves on a quiet stream. Alice was sitting by the riverbank. Her head tipped slightly to one side as she watched clouds curve and stretch above her. Her sister sat beside her, reading a book with no pictures, and the words passed over Alice like soft wind, barely noticed. She was just wondering if it was worth getting to pick a daisy. She was just wondering if it was worth getting up to pick a daisy, or whether the daisy might eventually come to her when something rather peculiar happened. A white rabbit with pink rimmed eyes and waistcoat hurried past her. Now, rabbits were nothing strange, but a rabbit in a waistcoat and speaking out loud and checking a pocket watch. That was certainly something worth noticing. Oh dear, I shall be late, said the rabbit, in the tone of someone who'd forgotten something very important. Alice's eyes widened in that lovely, childlike way, equal parts surprise and delight. And before she even had time to decide, she was on her feet, following the rabbit across the grass, past a tree, and then down, down, down a rabbit hole. It was not a sudden drop, but rather a slow, drifting fall, like floating through a dream. The walls of the tunnel were lined with shelves and pictures, books and velvet curtains. Alice had the strange, sleepy thought that she might be descending into a library or a forgotten parlor from long ago. She was not frightened, just curious and very calm. As she drifted gently downward, she imagined where she might land. Perhaps I will pop out in the middle of the earth, or in a room filled with clocks and teacups, or a forest made of music. Eventually, after what seemed like both a moment and a small eternity, Alice touched the ground, soft as velvet, and Wonderland had begun. Alice looked around. The room she had landed in was round and cozy, with walls of polished wood and soft golden light falling from a glass ceiling far above. There were many little doors, dozens of them, all painted in gentle colors: pale blue, dusty rose, buttery yellow. But they were all very, very small. At the center of the room stood a table made of dark cherry wood, and upon it sat a tiny key. Next to the key, a bottle stood with a label tied around its slender neck. "Drink me." Alice tilted her head and smiled softly. It was the kind of curiosity that doesn't shout or demand, but whispers in your ear. Why not? She took the bottle and brought it to her lips. It tasted faintly of honey and violets and something she couldn't quite place. Something like memory. Almost immediately, she began to shrink, slowly and steadily, until she was no taller than a teacup. Now the key fit perfectly in the smallest of the doors. She turned the lock and stepped through. But even in Wonderland, emotions sometimes overflow. You see, Alice, though brave and clever, was also quite young, and the strangeness of it all began to weigh on her, like dreams that sit too heavily on its chest. She found herself growing again, much too large for the tiny hallway, her head brushing the ceiling, her head brushing the ceiling, her arms folded awkwardly against the walls. In her frustration, she began to cry. But in Wonderland, even tears are enchanted. They fell like pearls, but did not stop. Soon they found a pool, deep and wide, and filled with the shimmer of moonlight. And then, to her quiet surprise, Alice was floating in the pool, along with a duck, a dodo, a lizard, and a very dignified mouse. They paddled together, talking about poetry and politics and the best kind of hats to wear in the rain. It was all so dreamlike, so absurd, so gentle that Alice almost forgot she would ever felt sad. Later, wandering through a grove where the trees whispered softly to one another, Alice came upon a curious creature. A cat with fur as grey as twilight and eyes like amber glass. It sat on the branch of a tree that arched over her head, its smile appearing before the rest of it. "You must be the Cheshire Cat," said Alice politely. "I must be," said the cat, in a voice like purring silk. "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" "That depends," the cat mused, "on where you wish to end up." Alice paused. "I don't much mind where." "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat, fading slowly until only the green remained, floating like a memory in the air. And Alice smiled too, because sometimes not knowing the way is part of the magic. Eventually, her path brought her to a long table beneath the sky. It was set for tea, but not ordinary tea. This was the kind of tea that stretched out like the time itself. At the head of the table sat a hatter with a kind smile and an untamed look in his eye. Next to him was the March Hare, nibbling a biscuit in thoughtful silence. And beside them, the Dormouse, curled into a tiny teacup, fast asleep. "There is plenty of room," called the Hatter, gesturing grandly. And so Alice sat. The conversation flowed like a gentle stream. Questions without answers, riddles without ends, and laughter without cause. The tea never ran out, and time never moved forward. It was always 6 o'clock. The kind of tea party you don't wish to leave. The kind you remember long after you have woken up. At last, Alice reached a garden unlike any she had seen. The roses were being painted red over white by nervous gardeners who whispered of a queen with a sharp temper and sharper voice. Soon a procession arrived. Guards walking like soldiers, and the queen herself, short, round, and full of proclamations. But Alice, still curious and calm, did not bow or tremble. She asked questions. She stood tall. She reminded the queen, and perhaps herself, that Wonderland was full of strange power, but it did not belong to just one person. Just as things became more curious than ever, just as the thoughts began to swirl around her, just as the queen shouted her famous off with her head, Alice felt a softness beneath her. Grass. She opened her eyes with the sound of birdsong. The sun was low in the sky. The river still flowed gently nearby, and her sister was still reading. Had it been a dream? Perhaps. Or perhaps Wonderland is the place inside us that opens when the world slows down and we allow ourselves to wander, to drift, to rest. Thank you for dreaming with me tonight. Here are bright stories. Every tale is an invitation to return to yourself, to your breath, to the quiet parts of your heart that still believe in wonder. If this story brought you comfort, know that there are more waiting for you. New journeys, soft endings, and moments of peace that are always just a story away. Sleep gently now, and when you wake, carry a little piece of Wonderland with you. Good night, and may your dreams be kind.